Hello everybody. Welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well and that you're all having an absolutely fantastic day. If you are looking for the perfect gift to give someone, give them the gift of crypto. Don't forget that Ledger has gift cards, as well as a plethora of other deals on their website for those of you looking to secure your cryptocurrencies. While I do not work for Ledger, I am an affiliate, and I have an affiliate link in the description below for those of you looking for a good deal. And without any further ado, let's jump right into it. The world is looking crazy. I didn't know how else to really say that. If you have happened to miss any of the last couple of videos, it goes a little something like this. The US dollar is collapsing. Companies and countries are mining Bitcoin, buying Bitcoin, getting away from the US dollar, as well as many other US assets. We know this because of the news and stuff that we've been seeing, and a lot of if you've looked at the value of the US dollar compared to other currencies since around November, December, you might have noticed something fascinating, and it's that the US dollar is losing a lot of its momentum and power. We recently heard from the CEO of Coinbase, who said that the US, if it does not get its debt under control, will be replaced by Bitcoin. Bitcoin will be the new reserve currency. We have heard that from a number of CEOs and hedge fund managers and just basically extremely wealthy people who have been throwing their weight as well as their money behind Bitcoin within the last few years. On top of that, this made very popular news, because it's about that time and people are wondering when it's finally going to take place. We heard back in good old January that the United States was going to begin buying Bitcoin. And I remember it because I remember making videos on it. There are multiple days in that month, and we kept on going over it over and over. The idea was, or we were originally told, that the purchases would be near instantaneous and that the US was going to have 200,000 Bitcoin that they would accumulate per year. That then became the Bitcoin that was held by the DOJ, the Department of Justice, got swapped over into the Bitcoin reserve, and people were like, yep, we did it. That was the Bitcoin that we said we were going to get. And people were like, well, you didn't really buy any Bitcoin like you said you were going to. And then we heard multiple times from Cynthia Lummis and a slew of other people that apparently buying was underway. You might remember this was maybe mid-March. I want to say mid-March. There was a news story from someone in the White House, I believe, who said buying was imminent. If I can remember lightly correctly, it was something along the lines of, we are going to buy and the buying is happening this week and we should have news of it next week. It was something along those lines. It was like literally like imminent. This is happening now. You will get news about it in a couple of days. Since then, there's been relative radio silence. I almost said radio science. We have heard a gargantuan amount of news from other companies, corporations, institutions who've announced that they are buying, they are hoarding, they're accumulating, they're reserving. We have, I believe it's now 19 or 20 companies that are new. That's not the other ones that we've heard over the years as well, who are constantly accumulating and maybe just don't want to be in the spotlight because they're usually accumulating around 50 or 100 Bitcoin. Then on top of that, we've had multiple countries who've announced that they're allocating huge amounts of electricity into buying Bitcoin and mining Bitcoin and using it in trade. You understand the general gist of what I'm saying. So, in very popular news, people have been asking and questioning what's going on with the US's purchases. It says Senator Cynthia Lummis outlines challenges and timeline for potential U.S. Reserve proposal. As far as we know, or we were told right now, it was basically that the U.S. was buying. And it appears that this is still a proposal, or the proposal for how to do it still has not been solidified. U.S. Senator Cynthia Lummis clarified the hurdles delaying the establishment of a strategic Bitcoin reserve and outlined the legislative roadmap ahead. Contrary to misconceptions, Lummis emphasized that her proposal does not involve liquidating U.S. gold reserves, but rather converting dormant gold certificates to Bitcoin at fair market value. If all of that sounds a little weird, it's because I believe there have been 4 different outright proposals. She has had her own. Another person in the White House suggested selling cheese. Yeah, remember that one? It sounds crazy because it probably is, but apparently the United States has tons and tons and tons and tons of wheels of cheese in a bunker somewhere. I'm not joking. And they suggested selling that cheese and using the proceeds from the cheese to buy Bitcoin. Another person said to sell gold, like literal Fort Knox gold. They said, if I remember, that apparently it hasn't been revalued since the 70s. It has an old market value. And therefore, if they valued it at current prices and numbers, the U.S. would be able to sell off a fraction of that and use that to buy the 200,000 Bitcoin that they planned on purchasing year on year. The weird part is, my friends, is that we have heard since January that this was imminent, that this was going to happen, this was going to take place, this was going to be absorbed, this was going to so-and-so. And as of yet, we've heard nothing. And this is why many times in crypto news, I think people aren't, I'm going to use the word dumb. And I think after a certain amount of time of hearing tomorrow, people begin to question when exactly is tomorrow. That's why a lot of times I tell you, and it's a shame that we have to keep going over this, that I'm bringing the news because you would not believe how many times after 9 years of showing people and going over cryptocurrency news daily that I would have to tell them that I'm not making up the news. I know it sounds crazy, but a lot of people sometimes they'll hear me go over the news and then 3 weeks later they'll post on Twitter or somewhere else, "You said 3 weeks ago," and it's no, sir. I'm going over the news. So back at it, people are wondering when is this finally going to take place, as we've had multiple people tell us that this was imminent and it was about to happen. According to CoinOtag, Lummis is prioritizing foundational crypto market structure legislation this year, deferring the Bitcoin reserve bill to a later date. Cynthia Lummis explained why a U.S. Bitcoin reserve is delayed, focusing on regulatory clarity and market structure reforms before advancing the digital asset strategy. Long story short, people are not too happy with this, as we have heard for quite some time that this was going to happen yesterday and that this was going to happen in a week and that we're working on it. We're going to have news for you tomorrow. And the other one that said next week, and somebody's going to sell some cheese and this is going to happen. And it's cool. So in a recent Bloomberg interview, she addressed widespread confusion. I wonder why there's widespread confusion when we have been hearing the same thing every week surrounding her proposed strategic Bitcoin reserve legislation. She firmly rejected claims that the plan entails selling off the nation's gold reserves. Instead, Lummis clarified that the initiative involves converting existing gold certificates into Bitcoin at their current fair market value. This approach aims to modernize the utilization of dormant assets without compromising physical gold reserves. The senator highlighted that fiscal conservatives' apprehension towards touching legacy assets like gold remains a significant barrier, underscoring the need for careful legislative navigation. Cool. So at some point this will happen. I wonder, and I wonder when this will take place, because other nations and other companies and other corporations don't seem to be waiting. Even this is very much has the feeling of like the whole ETF saga a little bit, where over the course of a decade, the US SEC constantly said no for Bitcoin ETFs. When we got news that Canada wanted ETFs, it took them like 3 weeks. Remember, Hong Kong was like, and this was last January. They were like, yeah, we want Bitcoin ETFs. It took them, I think, 8 weeks to make legislation and do all this other stuff. I understand that this one might be a bit more tricky. But it's weird that people find money for unreasonable things in government. But this, for some reason, is like, we can't figure out how to do it. Where's the money going to come? So cool. This was widely spoken about. Let's see what ends up happening. I already told you before. This was before this tidbit of information. I don't think the US is ever going to get to 1 million Bitcoin, just because other countries and other companies are buying up so much there won't be enough left for them. So that's the Bitcoin reserve at some point in the future news. And yeah, let's move on. I want to say, tying directly into this, for those of you not looking at the screen, it says Bitcoin's liquid supply has declined by 30%. Yeah. Amid growing institutional demand and reserve strategies, Signum has reported. Do you understand what 30% means? I'm not saying it in a joking manner. That means 1 out of every 3 Bitcoin that there was available in the liquid supply for people to be able to purchase is gone. None. We've been hearing about heavy institutional purchases for about a good 6 or 7 months now. If you replicate that, my friends, you know how we keep getting new companies, multiple per week, who are like, hey, we're also going to be buying some BTC, y'all, that kind of thing. Now imagine if my numbers came true. I said I'm expecting by the time we get to the end of the year, we are probably going to hear about, 50 to 100 new companies announcing that they're also buying Bitcoin. If 30% has happened in the recent times because of the current companies, imagine if these countries keep buying. Imagine if more companies and corporations continue to accumulate. Don't forget, some of these companies have announced that they want 500 Bitcoin, they want 1,000 Bitcoin, but MicroStrategy is still aiming for 1 million. BlackRock is still aiming for 1 million. 21 Capital, they're still aiming for 1 million. You also still have the other purchases that are happening behind the... Don't forget, Tether's buying every quarter. Jack Dorsey said years ago, he maxes out daily, not weekly. Jack Dorsey said daily. He maxes out as his Bitcoin purchases across all apps. He buys as much as he can daily. So, as the Bitcoin supply continues to drop, as there's, this widely held confusion that all the Bitcoin on crypto exchanges is liquid in some form or fashion, it is not. There are millions of people holding their crypto on crypto exchanges, similar to a bank account. They have no intention of selling. They're planning on holding. It's not just you. There are other people who are planning on holding for the long term, the next 10, 15, 20 years. Yeah, Bitcoin's liquid supply has contracted sharply by 30% over the last 18 months, signaling a tightening market driven by institutional demand and, they say, innovative reserve strategies. This reduction is largely attributed to increased institutional adoption, including ETFs and corporate buyers withdrawing coins from exchanges, which typically precedes bullish price movements. So yeah, as the supply continues to dwindle and lower, and there's less and less for the average man and woman, and we move into this world of CEO and corporate entities and BlackRock and Coinbase and everyone else and their mother and grandmother announcing that the US dollar is fading and that Bitcoin's going to take over. Are you getting the connection to the puzzle? Rich people say US dollar go bye-bye. Rich people buy Bitcoin. Rich people say US dollar leave. Bitcoin take over. Bitcoin start to take over. Well, as always, I really hope that everyone's paying attention. I know that a lot of people are not, especially those within crypto. I like to believe that all of you listening, there's like a little bit of my spirit in you. That, you're not just listening to me, you're also making sure that you pay attention to what's happening in like real news, as far as like, hey, all the rich people keep saying that Bitcoin's going to become the world reserve currency. 30% of the Bitcoin there is gone. If we extrapolate and we get to 2030, that 30% becomes 99%. Well, that's gonna do it for that story, I guess. Okie dokie. Let's move on. Also in slightly dystopian, but also futuristic, but also dystopian news. The Panama City mayor, his name is Mayer Mizrachi, has floated the idea of allowing ships transiting the Panama Canal to pay Bitcoin. And if they pay in Bitcoin, they might get faster passage. If you've never seen a dystopian movie before, it's kind of like, allowing the rich to be able to go through quicker. It is not that these other companies aren't rich, but you understand that kind of like fast pass kind of thing. But then also futuristic because it's Bitcoin. But then also, it's just another genius way of being able to accumulate more Bitcoin. And also kind of like announcing that these companies also hold Bitcoin. Like follow the line. The mayor of Panama City would not have announced that if people pay for their passage in Bitcoin that they could go faster unless the mayor of Panama City wanted Bitcoin. You would simply say, like, pay me in gold, pay me in diamonds instead. But he chose Bitcoin. This would mean that other companies and countries would already have to have Bitcoin to have faster passage. You would have to know, you can't simply just say, if you give me a slice of bread, you can go through. You would have to know that they have bread. Like, actually. You can't say it without knowing that they... Are you following me? It wouldn't make sense otherwise to announce something like this. Mizrachi proposed during a panel discussion at the Bitcoin 2025 conference in Las Vegas at the end of May that cargo ships could cut the line, on waiting for their passage through the key shipping channel by paying in BTC. He said, and I quote, "We have a canal. What if you get a perk for paying in Bitcoin? Get your ship to go quicker if you pay in Bitcoin." Oh, geez Louise. He suggested this while speaking with two El Salvador Bitcoin policy leaders. So not the craziest news story in the world, but it's kind of like whenever those companies, pay attention, whenever these companies say, hey, you want our product? You can pay us in Bitcoin. It's easier for you. No, it's not easier for you. It might actually be a little bit more difficult. What they're trying to do is to get you to relinquish your crypto and give it to them. Wouldn't it make sense for them to want the dollar? Oh, wait, the dollar is collapsing. So what else could they possibly want? Why would they want it now? Yeah, so this is basically the same exact thing. And the problem is that we will hear in a documentary 10, 15, 20 years from now that, this money that they got from the ships going through added, $1.389 billion extra dollars to their economy because, yeah, so interesting. Let's see how far that one goes. That's the Panama City news. And yeah, let's move on. Also in the news, I guess this is cool. I feel like this happened already, but maybe it didn't because it was also everywhere. Ripple has announced that its stablecoin, the RLUSD, has been approved by the Dubai Financial Services Authority, or the DFSA. Ripple has had a strong relationship with Dubai and companies and countries within the Middle East. It's been about a good 5 or 6 years. I think a lot of this became news to other people who ignored Ripple for quite some time. One of the places I remember saying in 2018, 2019, not that they listened to me, but I was like, go somewhere else. Why would you stay in a place where you're not wanted? And Ripple actually ended up opening up shop in a number of other countries. And Dubai was one of the very first ones where they were like, nope, we're doing business here. And they got a bunch of certificates and paperwork to be able to do business there. So I assume that this story became popular because it's Ripple and their stablecoin. There's a lot of interest in the idea of stablecoins now, and maybe people are thinking that if they got their stablecoin approved by Dubai, that companies within the country would be more inclined to use it, or this would add extra liquidity and in some sort of way extra benefit XRP. I guess it's like a multiple chain thing. If it's legal, then people will use it. If people will use it and there's billions of dollars going through, and then the background, the transactions are burning XRP, then there's less XRP. If there's less XRP, then the price goes up. If the price goes up, then there's more. I guess that's maybe what the loop is. It says this means that the token can now be legally used within the Dubai International Financial Center, DIFC, which is a special economic zone in the megacity, that was established back in 2004. Wow. There are now more than 7,000 companies operating within that financial center. The stablecoin, which was launched in December, has been pitched as a highly regulated enterprise-grade stablecoin product, as reported by You Today. It also obtained approval from the New York State Department of Financial Services, the NYDFS, on the cusp of the official launch. Cool. So news stories like this are interesting. It's just more of a we need to see actual usage of it. I don't care how much paperwork you get. I don't care how many times, you shook someone's hand. We need news that in Dubai or within this economic zone, there are 7 companies using this coin, and they are each processing $500 million per month and moving money back and forth within this stable coin. I assume a lot of this will come further to fruition towards the end of the year, just simply because by the end of this year, we are supposed to be hearing from a lot of different countries and corporations who are making their own stable coins or working with companies and releasing these things. So a lot of times Ripple does have a lot of NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, but it's also for the crypto space and the crypto market to really make moves, people need actual concrete news. So this is, nice in the right step, but it's also Vitalik being yeah, within a year, we're going to have 1 million transactions. Show us, actually do it. So, once again, Ripple has been actually doing things unlike other cryptocurrency companies. So it's nice to see something, but I think a lot of the expectation is quite heavy as to who, what, when, and where and how this coin is going to actually be used. But cool. You get a golf clap. I think that's going to do it for this video. I do hope that you have all enjoyed. I do hope you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I do hope it is absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and supporting, and I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.